We've been messing with no-till since 1997. So we're pretty well versed in 25 years. We started it, we've tinkered with it off and on. We do no-till whenever it's possible, but it's very rarely possible. And where we do no-till is following rice that we will plant right into the rice straw, a cover crop for seed, and that works, and it works very well. But other than that, with our mix of crops, the type of crops we're growing, the time we're planting, the way we're harvesting, we are disturbing the soil, and we have not been able to figure out. There's many other, as I'll probably hit on them, other reasons of the problems of no-till, at least on California row crop. And as far as I know, I know of no organic no-till row crop farmer in California. That maybe if you're on 1 or 2 acres and you can do stuff by hand, but of any size at all, I know that it simply has not been functional.
Welcome to the Real Organic Podcast. I'm Linley Dixon, co-director of the Real Organic Project. We're a grassroots, farmer-led movement with an add-on organic food label to distinguish organic crops grown in healthy soils and organic livestock raised on well-managed pasture. You just heard from California row crop farmer Scott Park, who, like last week's guest, Phil Foster, also experiments with reduced tillage in organic vegetable production. If you head over to our YouTube channel this week, you'll find a video version of this episode, as well as some footage of the crops, trials, and equipment that Phil Foster mentioned in last week's interview.
So this is the Real Organic Podcast, and I am talking today to Scott Park. And Scott, thank you. I know I was late. And I really want to talk to you about your experiments with no-till and or reduced tillage. And I know you've done some serious work, and you know others are doing it too, and you're kind of working together, see what you can figure out. So just tell me first, like, what's the big lesson you've learned so far?
The big lesson that we've learned is that there's a time and place for no-till, but it's very small on our particular farm system. We've been messing with no-till since 1997. So we're pretty well versed in 25 years. We started it, we've tinkered with it off and on. We do no-till whenever it's possible, but it's very rarely possible. And where we do no-till is following rice that we will plant right into the rice straw, a cover crop for seed, and that works, and it works very well. But other than that, with our mix of crops, the type of crops we're growing, the time we're planting, the way we're harvesting, we are disturbing the soil, and we have not been able to figure out. There's many other, as I'll probably hit on them, other reasons of the problems of no-till, at least on California row crop. And as far as I know, I know of no organic no-till row crop farmer in California. That maybe if you're on 1 or 2 acres and you can do stuff by hand, but of any size at all, I know that it simply has not been functional.
Right. You can do it with herbicides. You can do it on a bigger scale with herbicides, conventional.
Yeah, with herbicides, I would say, yeah, right. Conventional row crop, you could do some, but even then there'd be some limitations.
Yeah. And what are the crops you grow?
So we grow really, usually it's about from 15 to 20 crops. This year it's a little less because we have about 25% of our acres out of production. But so we'll grow like right where we are now. This is fresh market. This is like four types of melons, and behind us is a squash crop, and there's 5 types of squash in there. And then we grow rice, we grow wheat, we grow a wide mix of corns, red, white, and blue corns. We grow cover crops for seed. We grow cover crops interplanted and cover crops planted in between. Let's see what else we have. Alfalfa. We grow other multiple seed crops, a lot of hybridization to grow seed crops like carrots and to produce seedless watermelons. We'll do safflower, sunflower. We're going sunflower for La Tourgelle. And then we also every once in a while are doing something like sorghum, millet, flax in the past.
And are tomatoes your biggest economic crop?
Yes,
And
but
how
all
many
the crops are grown in coordination with the other crops to solve problems. I would say, you know, crop rotation, and that's one of the reasons too why tillage is no-till is so difficult for us to do, is because of the wide range of crops that we're growing. You know, if we were just doing corn, I think I could do corn have a pretty good chance of doing no-till because it's harvested high. We could plant it a little later. The problem why a lot of no-till doesn't work is when is that cereal, whether it's triticale or rye, when is it rolled down? And you've got to hit the timing right on the roll down. And we have almost finished planting all our crops, all 15 or 20 crops, before it's ever the right time for the roll down to happen on the rye. Like, we're not going to change our farm system in order to fit a roll down of rye. We're going to do what we can do. And that's something else, is that we've been doing this for so long. We've been messing with no-till. We do have 10 to 15 tons of biomass every year on the ground, okay? And it's in the form of cover crops, crop residue, or compost. There's a lot of biomass in one form or another that we have to either incorporate or let it lay. And if we're letting it lay, how much are we getting? And I guess the point I started on is our system works. It works. Our soil's getting healthier. Our soil organic matter, it continues to increase, although very, very slow now because this has been going on for so long. But we have all these side function advantages from us having a farm system which is not no-till, but we call targeted tillage. And I have read other people that use that phrase. I thought I invented it. Okay, I didn't. And by targeted tillage, we till enough to solve the problem. Like, we don't blanket go into a field and just disc. And all our fields are on controlled traffic. They're all on beds except for rice. And so the tractor tires only run in the same spot for the last 12 years with on sub 1 inch GPS. So all that ground, we figure that there's approximately 75% of the ground is not having any weight put on it other than a planter or maybe a sled with a cultivator. But we leave that alone, but we still mix in the cover crop and the compost or the crop residue, but we only mix it in as lightly as we can. And why do we mix it in at all? Like on tomatoes, with the header on the harvester's running 1 inch into the ground. So having, and we have a lot of problems, which I have had doing no-till, of so much trash going into the tomato harvester that it was plugging the fans and the harvester basically wouldn't function. But the other thing, messing with no-till, what I've seen is that if you're not building a thatch, if it doesn't have the opportunity to build on itself, at least in California weather, you're better off not leaving it all up top. You're better off mixing it in some. And then there's the timing that, okay, if you mix it in, you don't want to be mixing it in the day before you're planting. it starts tying up, the carbon is tying up the nitrogen the microbes are using to break down the carbon. Your whole growth pattern, which you can bank on, and we're growing really high value crops, we have to be timely on what we're doing. So we have developed a system that basically we put on the compost and the cover crop 2 weeks before we plant. And they have a symbiotic relationship, and the fields seem to do a lot better when that's done together. And then we put it in just enough that it's out of the way, the cover crop, like 3 inches, which is also how deep we're gonna run a cultivating knife to kill weeds as the season goes on. We're gonna have weeds come. Weeds are the #1 reason that we do not do no-till. There's a lot of others. If you could prove that one right, I could give you others, but that's the big deal. That's the weeds. And so cultivating 3 inches, that gives us a chance for us to keep our hoeing costs down because we have no herbicides.
So Scott, I want to just make a call out that you're not a naysayer. You've been actively trying to make reduced tillage work and even no-till for years now.
25
25
easy.
years.
Yeah.
And you've gambled a fair amount of money on pretty big experiments that didn't always work.
Well, here, let me give you verification to what you just said. So 2019, we feel very good about our farm. I feel comfortable with what we're doing ethically, financially, environmentally, social fairness. I'll put our farm against any farm. But it's been a long process to get. But in 2019, Brian and I went, let's see if we can even ratchet the farm purity per se to a higher level. Okay, and one of those, we figured there's 3 legs more that we could add in this summertime after wheat. And that was, instead of tilling in the wheat straw lightly, leave it on top. So that's a no-till. The second one was, everyone's banging the drum for multi-species. And we agree, multi-species is great. So normally we just pre-irrigate the wheat after we've harvested it. The wheat comes up, never makes it in the harvester. And so we get a volunteer wheat come as a cover crop, and then we'll go drill some black eyes in with it just to get some legume cereal, very cheap, very economical, easy to manage, good for the ground. Well, instead we did the multi-species, 7 different types of cover crop, and then finally we grazed it. Okay, and we have actually started into grazing. We're having up to 6,000 animals grazing through the winter, spring, and fall. Summer, it's too hot. Although we've had some here because it's been so dry, the hills, there's nowhere for them to go. So actually they've been here most of the summer. So, but anyway, so these are the 3 radical steps for our farm: multi-species, no-till, grazing. Long story short, we harvested crops that we did that on in 2019 compared to crops that we didn't do it on in the summer of 2019. We lost over $500,000 by doing the no-till, graze, multi-species addition. And I have spent all of 2020 after we harvested and 2021 trying to figure out, asking people from agronomists, scientists, Australia, Canada, through the Midwest, all the UC system, which I do a lot of stuff with. Every answer that I was giving, I could refute. I know the farms well enough. I know all the stuff that they were saying, like you didn't get enough water. No, we did get enough water. We got 14 inches instead of with our normal 17, but we pre-irrigated twice. And it was 7 months in between the time of the no-till to the time we planted. Anyway, so what just isn't also to support what you're saying is that we keep trying. We have a trial going right now that we separated out. We have 6 blocks replicated 3 times that we're leaving out the grazing. We're leaving out the no-till. We're leaving out the multi-species in order to see what was it that did that to us. Because we have no idea. Everything looked perfect. Everything looked fine. And no plants, they didn't look bad. They just didn't grow well. They just didn't grow like our normal practices. So, you know, yeah, and one of the things was I was really an idiot. You're going to do something like that, do it on 30 acres. I did it on 350. But it's the same thing. If I went and asked any professor, any agronomist, they'd be going, oh no, summer, oh, that's so good, oh, that's so great. You know, well, hey, guess what? It wasn't so great, not at all, not even close.
And you still don't even have a theory about what happened.
No, we have the trial going right now. Yeah. And when we drive around later, you'll see it. And so we're going to harvest it. It's in tomatoes, the same pattern. But we did it, and we have weigh wagons, and we're going to go in and weigh it. We've been having Chico State and UC Davis have been involved in the extension system in the area, have been involved in measuring soil, petiole analysis, microbes through the last year. Because we just took a wheat crop, small field, and did the different ops on it and been measuring. So hopefully when we harvest, right now actually there's no visual, so I don't think we're going to see anything, but which is, then what do I do? But anyway, there's no visual.
Was there a visual in that year?
Oh, definitely. Oh, clear cut.
You could see.
Just simply the plants grew about 2/3 the size they were supposed to grow. Looked happy, looked fine, not bad, we don't want neon green, but not our normal green on like the tomato plants or the sunflower plants or corn. I mean, just the difference. Our regular tomatoes, we were getting 50 tons the acre. Our tomatoes that we did the Cadillac, no-till, multi-species grapes, 27 ton to the acre.
Yeah. All right, let me ask you something. There's a lot to learn there still.
Right. Yeah,
right?
Right.
That you haven't given up hope. You've just said, let's be a little more cautious about how we learn.
Right, and that's because we've had, I mean, that's the most dramatic, but we've gotten killed many times just for me learning about how important that CN ratio is and the timing of dealing with residue. And if you're putting it in, you're either going to put it in or you're not going to put it in. And we've actually been sort of going halfway. In the old days, the emphasis, what's conservation tillage? Well, it's 30% or more of the biomass is covering the soil. And we're really finding it's better, if you're going to till it, go ahead and put it in the ground. Yeah, and if your some's left up on top, but if you're kind of half and you don't want to run a chopper and you have long pieces and they're tangling on knives, they're sloughing into the furrow. We run water down the furrow. It's furrow irrigating. All the trash plugs the furrow, kills the plants as the water backs up. You know, so, I mean, it's been a long haul, but we have a pretty efficient system that handles 10 to 15 tons of biomass. And we can say that every year the ground's getting better.
Now, let me first just jump back. So you said that your ground's been getting better since you started. How many years ago was that?
Well, 1985. So yeah, we're looking at whatever that is, 37 years. We started changing what we're doing until from 74 to 85, I used every chemical possible you could use to grow tomato crop. And I just saw the crop we were just spending more and more money, getting less yield. Anyway, I ran into a field that was very mellow, and I went, that's what I want to do. I want to have ground like that. And it was close by, so it wasn't like I went 15 miles away. So that's kind of what started it. And then, so that it's just built on itself, and I've had no template, you know. The amount of mistakes and losses that I've taken trying to figure out how to be a thoughtful farmer has been pretty brutal, and most all results are serendipitous. You know, an example is we run a ripper. Instead of us running the ripper 2 feet deep, making 3 passes, we don't even do it anymore. I mean, we're doing it, and the serendipitous, we're going, well, the first pass, we don't need to do this again. This ground's crumbling. There's no clod. Like now, our mindset is if we have a clod, period, anything bigger than, even as big as my fist, we failed. or we're not working the ground right. We're not handling it right. It's not like it's silty at all, but it's aggregated and crumbly. And so that's what that's telling us. And you know, you don't have to keep pounding the ground to make a seed bed. You just touch it and it'll crumble and be fine and go and plant. You know, the water holding capacity and all, you know, it's on and on. Of all the things that everyone's complaining about in the world, you know, of erosion and the human health, water usage, nitrogen in the groundwater, pesticides, you know, our world's just soil health. We take care of the soil. You know, we're growing all these 15, 20 different crops this season. And once we've planted the season, all we do is cultivate and irrigate. Keep the weeds down, don't blow it with water. Trust us. No, we have sprayed no pesticides on all this wide range. We have 100 acres, 10 different fresh market crops. You can see behind and here, the crops are beautiful. Yeah. We've done nothing.
Yeah, it works.
It works.
Yeah. Okay, so one question, what was your organic matter before you went organic in the soil?
Shoot, it was from 0.9 to 2.2, 2.4, pretty wide range. Now our lowest is at about 3.2 and we're tapping out about 4. The organic matter does not seem to move anywhere near as fast as it used to. It seems like whatever, and maybe it's because of the tillage or what have you, but we seem to have found that we're kind of settling into the 3.4 to 3.8 area.
Well, for this climate,
and yeah,
and this
right.
soil, that's very good.
Yeah, no, it's like, and we have no crust.
And you're taking crops off.
Oh yeah, yeah, and we don't yield with conventional, but we're not far behind
in your
at
yields.
all.
Yeah, yeah. What do you see something that is better in the no-till? Like when you look at the soil, do you go, yeah, I see something here that...
Yeah, I would love to do no-till.
Yeah.
I honestly, and we see it when we leave the rice. We take the rice crop off, we chop it. We kind of leaves whatever, it sort of evens everything out, and we just go drill right into all that rice straw. And it's probably 5 tons to the acre that's just left sitting on top. And we plant it, and rice is really good at impacting weeds, particularly a bunch of winter weeds. So we have almost no weed pressure. We'll go out in the winter, once it starts warming up a little bit. We don't really see much worm activity until February, actually late February. But yeah, that mat, the moisture is by far better than even better than our normal. We have cover crops. We try to have something growing on every acre, every year, 365 days a year. But sometimes we'll have a window of a month and a half, and we're not going to get in and plant and irrigate it up, and it'll sit. But overall, the moisture in the fields with a no-till rice cover crop planting will definitely be better, and the earthworm activity is clearly better. So yeah, I see it, and I walk it, and I feel it, but it's simply not practical. I won't be able to pay the bills.
Yeah, because at the moment, as far as you've gotten so far, and you were working with Pinnacle, and you're working with Full Belly, and you're working with Chico State, as far as you've been able to figure it, you can't make up that yield difference yet.
No, it's a negative. Yeah. I mean, so far it's a negative.
Yeah.
Yeah. Until we see how these trials come out and what caused that, and so.
All right. Listen, I think we're probably supposed to be back there. So, Scott, thank you very much. This is really interesting. I'm going to share this with a lot of people. A lot of farmers are going to be watching this with great interest. Everyone's asking the same question, but there's a lot of
distortion.
There's a lot of distortion.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Real Organic Podcast. We hope that you'll subscribe and share the link with your friends. Please take the time today to leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening to so that others can find us. A video version of this interview is found at realorganicproject.org and by following our YouTube channel. Please join us next time when our guest will be Kelly James, founder of Mercaris, a data research company that tracks sales, pricing, and market conditions for organic commodity crops. To support our work certifying real organic farms and market access for real organic farmers in stores everywhere throughout the nation, please visit our website and sign up to become a real friend. See you next time.